Hello, hello. Ah, I got a line. Let me fix that. Oh, better. Broke the third wall. Oh no. How's it going, everybody? We are continuing the Tory Tray app. We're on stream four, I think four. We are going through and using these system tray APIs existed in Tory in V1. Part of V2 is that we've opened up some of these APIs that were Rust only and implemented them also on the JavaScript side of things, or at least JavaScript interface that ends up talking back to the Rust side of things. So what we've been doing with V2, still in beta, is going through and using these system tray APIs and creating a starter. And that starter is going to have a handful of snippets, potentially multiple implementations, because the intent is that somebody can spin up a tray app very quickly for their own personal uses. Doesn't have to be, but I think that's going to be the biggest use case. And kind of use like whatever like handful of snippets or piece that they want to start with. And I think like all JavaScript and all Rust are probably going to be the big first ones to do. And right now we've been doing things in JavaScript and React, and I could see potentially multiple frameworks being thrown into the mix as well. So we've gone through a few things. We've gotten everything onto V2 because we had started this on V1. We had gotten everything into V2, and we have. I just realized I didn't sign into this thingy, and this because I missed the chat. That monitor is further away. Jezreel. I missed your chat in the thingy. Yes, me too. I'm glad we're finally getting to this. I've been wanting to get to this for a while, but I mean the system tray stuff in general. But there's a bunch of these APIs that I just haven't had a chance to try or have evolved in V2. So we've gone through. We did all the setup. We got to V2 in the original system tray that we had implemented. For V1, we've done shortcuts, we've done system tray, menu items, and today we're looking at notifications or toasts. So the idea could be that you would, like one of the potential use cases for this would be that you'd have like a Pomodoro timer or something where you're like kicking a thing off and you want to be notified when it happens. So a way to like subscribe to events, but not have it not required to always be like visible or up in up in the front, where you can do little pop-ups that say, hey, this thing has happened that you're trying to track. And I think that's probably going to be the big three APIs: notifications, shortcuts, and the system trade items. I think that's going to be the bulk of what we're going to be looking at implementing. So this is a good time to switch over here. I've finally pushed up the template. It should be in the description if I've updated it and actually remembered to save. This will be. So we'll probably not use this as necessarily as like an example on stream anymore. We might still work out of there's also a Tory Playground repo that we've been slowly working on stream. Tory Playground. That's where we started. That's where we had originally put the tray app. So if you're looking for this actually is on V2 now, but it used to be on V1. So if you look at the commit history, if you're interested in that, and then we pulled it out into this template. So I think the intent of this template is that we'll get things set up, potentially use it for a little bit of experiments or a kickoff point or a starting point for experiments. But I think this is something that can then continue to evolve off stream. So if anybody's interested in using this or contributing to it, happy to entertain the help and move things forward in that manner. So issues and PRs are welcome. You can see I literally just did this. I said I was going to do it last week, but time gets away from me really fast these days, I feel like. Anyways, this commit has everything in JavaScript. The only thing that I haven't pushed up yet is the Rust side of things. We had originally done things in Rust for the system tray stuff for V2. Partly because that was one of the pieces that we were experimenting with, some of those newer APIs. So we'll get everything in JavaScript, get that pushed up, and then right now I'm just committing to main, but we'll start switching to purely PRs for everything, and start working on the Rust. But today we are going to look at toasts, and as a bit of a side note, Simon yesterday I think was doing a whole bunch of work on updating like the sidebar and whatnot, and making it clear that there's stubs, and that like these references have changed a little bit to where now we have the JavaScript in here. Because before this was a little bit more hidden, maybe is the best way to say it. So it's been lifted up a little bit up into the sidebar. And we've you can see all these tags are noting these things that are stubs or work in progress, which is docs. Docs are going to be a big thing here in the near future. And I think that might be most of what. I think that's most of what was done. Yeah, I think that's most of what was done. Although I feel like I haven't seen this. And this is likely going to continue to evolve. For the most part, everybody was giving thumbs up on this, so it was sort of just a ship it and follow up with more PRs as we see fit. But hey, Chow, how's it going? Good to see you again. All right, let's go over to notifications. This is I think this has seen a little bit of love since V1. So I think this API has evolved a little bit since V1, which is likely part of the reason that it has docs, or at least more docs than we had before. I like these bullet points. So for the most part, this is, I think, what we're going to end up doing. Like, this is likely going to be the bulk of what we need to deal with. And I'm expecting there to be permissions, but I'm not. I don't actually see any permissions that we have to add. Nice. Hey, Nicola. Good to see you. Nice. You're reading about notifications today. Perfect. We've learned together. I expected there to be permissions, but it might be purely like an opt-in thing where we don't need to at the app level like opt-in for the user. Instead, they basically like check the box when they first use it. Let's grab this and run with it. I guess first thing we need to do is add the notifications, because there is We'll get the plugin. It's a separate plugin that we need to add, both as npm package for the front end stuff, or the stuff on the JavaScript side of things, but also we need it in Rust to wire up that plugin. So we'll go ahead and do this. We are running with npm right now. Let's make this just a tad bigger and make sure I'm actually on the right computer here. Yep. Okay. Still had it hooked up to my Mac. All right. So we'll add that. While it's doing its thing, there's examples which point to actions. Okay, so this is all just, you click it and it goes to another place on this page. I think we're just going to copy and paste this and figure out how we want to use it. First of all, we need to determine if we have permission and request it otherwise. And then we can send permissions from there on out. We've talked about, and maybe this is something, I don't know if this is necessarily needs to be a future stream, but what we had talked about kind of like a settings page. So I think there's some level of expectation where the user is going to clone this or create a new repo off of this template and like customize it to their harsh desire. I think there's also the other side of the coin where I want to grab this, maybe just add a little bit of config and like have it do a thing. And I think with snippets and a settings menu or something similar, we can enable that more to where somebody could drop a bunch of snippets into a folder and like things just work and configuration actually happens at runtime. I could see this being one of the things that are configured at runtime, where rather than asking for permission the first time you send a notification or when the thing loads, actually put this in a settings menu. So we will always attempt to send notifications, but we check if permission is granted. And that permission being granted could be strictly a like opt-in or a button on the settings menu, allow notifications or something similar. I think for now though, we're just gonna like use this pretty much directly. Let's go back and make sure this install went fine. We got some features, updated some crates. It did add a permission for us. And some formatting. Okay, cool. That all looks dandy. I do want to look at permissions. Oh, identifier migrated. Do I like that? I guess that's fine for now. I noted that it said added permission notification default to migrated. Here, let's make that just a little bit bigger. And I was like, migrated. I thought we renamed it. We renamed the file, not the identifier. So that's the difference. Let's go to our app. So we kind of have this view layer. We have a function that calls this initial setup trait. And so the idea is that we have these pieces where we've abstracted them out a little bit into these separate, they're not really hooks. Like they're not React specific, but they're like setup functions that do a bunch of this. Like, I mean, somebody could write this themselves, and this is sort of a piecemeal, combine a bunch of examples. But like we want to get somebody started real quick. And since we've abstracted these out, we can call these functions at kind of like a global level and implement them at a global level in any framework. Your question is how it asks for permission to get notification. So it looks like there's two pieces to it. Let's copy this in here. We're gonna do. I guess we don't really have too much for setup, do we? Send notification and just the requests. Let's just copy and paste it in here, and we'll go from there. So there's two pieces to it. The is permission granted, so that will be I'm presuming this is going to be a pop-up that however you fire it off, this will trigger this pop-up. And it's like when you visit a website and ask, do you want to allow notifications? You know, one of those like ad heavy, there's like 17 different ads. Do you want to fill out a survey? Also enable permissions. I'm guessing it's gonna be a little box that comes up. There's this, and it looked like when I added it, it said added permission notification default. So to even allow this is permission granted to show a thing in the app for the user to interact with, we need to have notification default. I'm gonna take these out. I don't know if that's gonna make a difference, but we got any changes? Yeah, okay. So it did add Android and iOS. And I'm pretty. Does it actually say what it's all applicable to? I'm pretty sure this is on every operating system, but I don't actually see anything about it. So I'm assuming it's cross platform. Does that answer your question, Schaub? So we're gonna in here it would fire off and ask if you want to add enable permissions. How should we handle this? We have a setup. There's this send notification, which is coming from here. We could, for the most part, I think with our setup, we're expecting people to operate or interact with this through the globals. Yeah, like I think we wanna operate. So like the system tray, we're setting it up and exposing it through in React context, so that anybody that wants to add menus or interact with it that way will then end up using the React context to basically grab a hook into it to operate off of it. The setup global shortcuts is sort of just like firing off and setting a thing up. It's not actually returning anything to the global. This check permission granted permission. Okay, so what this is doing is on the fly, it's actually changing this. So this is checking if permission is granted or not. If we would split this out into a separate function, what would that look like? I suppose we could just always check for If you're setting this up and you're just sending notifications, I'm guessing that this is going to throw an error. What does this return? This is it's a void. I'm presuming, I'm unsure if this is going to throw or not. But if we just sent notifications, it's possible they might just no op. In which case, permission granted matters, but not in a way that we need to necessarily bug the user about. So we could check every time before we try to send. But do we store that request permission status on the global? I mean, honestly, like, I suppose we could pull this out. We could pull this out into a little function and drop that function somewhere. Yeah, and like, so we're setting up the initial tray, and then the expectation is that the user can add menus or whatnot either through settings. So like that might be an option for something we could do in a settings menu. They're either going to add it through settings, or they're going to just straight away modify the code, like hard code it. Like either would effectively be fine. I think the same for the shortcuts. If we keep expanding on the idea of having a settings menu for somebody to like tweak these things at runtime, I would expect this to also go into the global, in which case we could pull it into settings, the settings menu. In the same way, I'm tempted to say the same here. If we pull this out, we can just return a send notification from the global and handle this like, is permission granted or not? I think I'm okay with that. Now, to your question, Chow, you said requiring permission doesn't seem a good option for me. You'd rather make it a notification system in the DOM. So this is a point of clarity that I think is going to be useful. This is native notifications. Native notifications would be, I mean, in this case, we're specifically targeting desktop. Native notifications would show up like outside the app. The web view doesn't need to be open. It would be a thing that pops up in the corner, or I think on Mac it comes in the top right, at least by default. So the intent here is that when running your app in the background, you can still like bring useful information, like make the user aware of useful information. That is a potentially different requirement from what I think you're thinking, Chow. So there is, and there's going to be a handful of different implementations based on the framework that you're using. But like, I'm pretty certain there's like a React Toast or something like that. React Toastify, yeah. So the intent here is like, in the DOM, you could use, you could do this yourself, or you can use any of these packages. And same thing, you call this endpoint and it pops up a thing. And what that's doing is just adding a DOM node at some layer using CSS to where it's visible over things, similar to like a modal. And it would be contained within your web view. And actually, I think this is a really good point too. I like that. And I kind of would prefer to have it in the app, personally. But I think there's potentially a use case where we do one or the other. So we're already doing this with the tray. When we click the thing, we are showing it and setting the focus. So we're focusing that window. We know if this window is focused or not. I think there's a, can we get the status? Await window dot. I mean, we can key into the events too. And this might actually be something on focused, is focused. So there's an is focused. What we could actually do, I don't know if we'll do it here, but I think we'll end up setting this up in a way which I think we'll try to set this up in a way which would enable this idea. We could do something like a little bit of pseudocode here, but send, we'll just say notify, and we'll do something like async await window dot is focused. This is going to start not help us out here, but if it is focused, then we do notify, which is random API or whatever in your specific framework, or we do send notification, which would be the Tory API. I'm going to comment all this out, and let's talk through this real quick. So where window hooks into the window focus state, and notify is a notification that shows only in the DOM, and send notification is displayed in the OS native notification drawer. So you use Svelte and you get your point of view here. There may be different scenarios for each type of notification. Yes, I do. And I think this is potentially a pattern that would be worth exploring, where we so basically we have a generic notification function, and depending on the context, we can use the context. If the user is focusing the window, we could show it in the DOM. That would be the notify function. If the user is not giving that window focus right now, they've minimized it, etc., we can check. If it doesn't meet any of that criteria, then we show a native notification. And I suspect that probably would work well in on mobile as well. You'd have to play around with that's the size of the notification, but then in this way, you don't have to deal as much with the context of showing the notification. You're just like firing the thing off, and this function encapsulates that context of when and where you want to show it. And you could also add in, and settings dot notifications enabled or something like that. So like you can encapsulate all these pieces in a function that's just abstracted out, handles all this stuff, and wherever you need to use it, you just call notify. And I think that's going to end up covering these points where, depending on context, I could see DOM being preferred, or depending on context, I could see native operating system being preferred. And that also could be based on the user's settings. So the settings could also dictate one or the other, or it's almost like light versus dark versus let the system decide. I need to change that. That's annoying. I pressed a button on my Stream Deck. It's also a shortcut in here. So like the idea here is that when you're, and it's going to be very app dependent, the app that you're creating will have different concerns, and depending on how you want to, or if this is useful, show these notifications, you can encapsulate it all into a single function, and you're just firing off this function. So in your actual code, like this event happened. I'm subscribing to this event. You could effectively hook it up to like an event emitter that you send events to, and like it fires off a notification. You don't care when you're writing that code where the notification is being sent. You just want to make sure that it's fired off. And based off of all this encapsulated logic, you can fire it off in one place or another, or not at all, if the user has opted out. So I like this, and I'm glad you brought up this question, because I like this pattern. We aren't necessarily going to have the context for this template. We're not going to have the context to, at least not at the moment, set up this this part of the pattern. We could potentially look at doing this window.isFocused. We might just put it in the comments in this abstracted function, though, because I think, especially now that you've mentioned this, I think what we do is we abstract this out into something that can be dropped into the global. And if somebody wants to do these bits, they put it in this global function. They're still using that notify function as they normally would. Yeah, I think that sells it for me. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a setup notifications.ts. Also, hey Chris, good to see you. I was deep in thought. Got a bunch of like, let's get rid of this. Okay, so I'm gonna grab these bits, I think, and what we'll end up doing is we'll have something like const. So right now we've got a tray, system tray context. So we have a tray. Suppose we could go something like this. And set up notification, bam, bam, bam. Oh, I just noticed. I need to figure out, I haven't actually set up any notification stuff on stream yet, but I see Claude IU? It's either combined or not. Let me know how I'm supposed to pronounce that, but thank you for the donation. Appreciate it. Okay, so we want a we have an initial tray. So we'll do notify? What should I call this? Set tray initial notification access. I don't know. Naming is hard. So we'll do something like, yeah, we need to wait because we're gonna have to. We're expecting user input. Set up notifications, and then we have the same I guess we'll call it notify. And then I think we have something like this. So now let's grab this and put that over there as well. And let's do a set. Still not terribly keen on this like use effect at the root, but I mean, it's gonna be fine for now. Set up notifications. Nope. What do we call this? Okay, we haven't exported anything yet. Bam. And bam. So we are going to do const setup notifications. I don't think we're doing anything else special. We're just exporting a function. It will need to be async. We then are basically going to end up returning a function something like this. So we'll also have some context in here on if permission has been granted or not. Set up notifications, and then we need to do the imports. Okay. So when we're done, we will end up returning notify, which is going to be a function that you can fire off, and it's going to then take input. So how do we want to deal with the permission granted or not? So if we have permission, then do the thing. Otherwise, we need to request it. We could, depending on our settings, also determine if we want to enable it or not. I think we're always going to want to, at least on mount, know if permission has been granted. So I think we start with that. And then we're gonna end up doing something like this. There's also like a no op case too, right? So this notify is going to we also need to like allow the user to re-request it. So if it's granted, if it's not granted, then request. And then here it's sending the notification. So we can probably presume that it's going to end up being something like this. And permission granted. I think I'm okay with leaving it as a closure moment. And what we could say is we could consider settings from the user dictating where and if to send a notification. I'm not going to implement this, at least not right now. But we get the comment. Okay. Focus state, I think, is potentially going to be something that we want to consider or use it to dictate. Notify, send notification. I think that's probably going to be it. Let's start with this. We'll hard code it. Whoop. And we'll go from there. I think we potentially want to consider this in some way. And that might be as much as at the root here in the setup, we can take some args, and that could help determine the settings if we're considering window or not. I think that's probably going to be the way to go about it. And this, I guess, this is another point. There's going to be multiple use cases too, and then some of that's going to be operating system specific. Some of that's going to be more like a thing you want to deal with in the DOM. So, like if we look at the API for this notify, all you're doing is clicking a button and it's firing off a toast. But there's options. There's lots of options, both in styling, etc., etc. Positioning, themes can be considered. What else do we got? Close on click. Yeah, close on click. There's going to be time, or there's an auto close, so after 5 seconds, just close. I guess this is probably closer to the API than I would be expecting. Oh, this is the emitter container. Got it. So if we do, it stacks them too. So like queue. I think the thing we're just gonna want to fire off. Like we're firing off. We're doing the emitter. We're setting up a global function to where you've, based on whatever specific context, you fire off this emitter function, and it's either going to show up in the DOM or the operating system. Using something like this React Toastify would handle a lot of that, like queue, etc., I think, because it is contained in this. I suspect the operating system one is going to have a little bit different expectation. I know for how I personally use notifications, I might be a little bit of an edge case, I guess, because I do a fair amount of like pairing and people seeing my screen, so I tend not to run with notifications on. And I think so. Like a queue, periodic sending might be something that we would have to think about. I suspect I would leave that up to the person cloning. Like they can set up their own logic for sending something out multiple times. But I think like the operating system, like notification drawer, I think this is going to be good. I cleaned it out. The operating system notification drawer, I think, is going to handle a lot of that work for us. I don't know that the API is going to be terribly expansive, other than like fire the thing off and make it show up there, for better or worse. And if you want to do more with it, I think, and I think this makes sense. Like native notifications, I think I would think of them more as a designed in a way to be less intrusive. When you're deep into an app and you're like working with the app and doing something with it, having something that would, I mean, depending on what the app is used for, like having a notification that would be sticky, or have a queue that shows up multiple times or continues to show up, can be useful. But I think once that app goes into the background, less obtrusive, like show it once and it shows up in the notification door, I think that's probably going to be sufficient. Or like the extent of the API that you might want to deal with. So this is probably going to be enough, at least I think, for what we're trying to do here. So in this case, how would we fire this off? Here we're using use context. We're grabbing this. That is returning a thing called menu. So I think maybe we do something like this, tray as menu. And if I could spell notify. And then I think we had a button. Notify me about something. And this is going to be notify. Right now we're just firing off a function with no inputs because we've got it hard coded right now. What else does the So we have some things. I think coming back to your thought where we might need to consider deeper we might need to more deeply consider like AQ or ways in which the user is notified. I think this kind of stuff is going to end up being like so this is icon color on Android. That's also Android. Android, Apple. Channel though might be something that we might need to think about. Oh, and here's schedule. Schedule this notification to fire on a later time or at a fixed interval. So I think just like baked into this send function, I think anything that you might need to do at the operating system level for notifications, I think it's already in the API. I don't think we're going to need to do too much. Sound only available on, yeah, okay. Bunch of these are for Android. So like that's part of the reason that this API has evolved a bunch, because they're for Android and iOS. So like here, silent. Changes the notification presentation to be silent on iOS. No badge, no sound, not listed. We might need to pay attention to this channel ID, but I'm not certain. I'm not certain how that's going to work on Windows. And I think the other implementation stuff that we've done is a little bit more operating system. The differences between operating system are small. I think the notifications are going to be a thing that are like much more extensive. So like something like schedule. This would be something that you would then bake into this. So we're going to have something like we're in TypeScript, so we can decorate this a little bit, but we could do something like schedule. And then schedule would be I'm not even sure what it takes. Schedule. Options. Schedule is at interval every. So like we could take this. as input. Schedule is going to be a schedule from this. So like this could be there we go. This could be a potential API where we're returning this notify function and it has this schedule. And there's going to be two situations. Two situations that we could potentially consider. Are we doing this in the DOM or are we doing this native notification? And the interval every at, like this is something that could, you would take a schedule and it would either be like schedule or, you know, DOM schedule. Type DOM schedule. We'll just any it for right now just to make that error go away. But you could have basically take two schedules. And when you're then, when you're taking basically like different, actually that probably wouldn't be the way that I would do it. I would say that you'd make schedule and also, did I spell it right? That looks really weird. Schedule. Why does it look so weird? It's one of those words, I guess. I thought for a second I misspelled it. Schedule would be one of those things that you could set up like your own. Let's look at the Toastify real quick. That'll give us a more concrete example. Scheduling, schedule. Default usage of 3 ducks. Changes, prevent duplicate. Don't really see anything specific. Play or pause the timer. Interesting. Positioning, icons. I don't see anything that's definitively, and I mean like, you know, update a toast. You're definitely going to have to expand on this API if this is something you want to use. But the, like, this would be fine for like initial setup. And then when you get here, like if you start wiring something like this API might end up changing or expanding. You don't want some from the UK to pronounce schedule. Schedule? No, what is it? Schedule? Gosh, I knew it at one point. There's schedule, and I think there's different pronunciations in the US too. Schedule, schedule, something like that. It's definitely interesting how quote the same language is drastically different. Even like within the US, there's the southern accent and there's the like the Midwestern accent, which is I'm classically trained in the Midwestern accent. Yeah, I find all that fascinating. Okay. Schedule. Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say. Or are you saying like schedule? No, is that a pronunciation some folks use? Schedule. It's got to be schedule, right? Anyways. That's amusing. Okay, so this will fire off a notification if permission is granted. We're checking up front. And basically we can take options. So we're definitely going to take like a body and title. That's going to be something that is generic. Let's not deal with that right now though. If you start then wanting to go down, like going into schedules or timing or anything like that, I think what you end up doing is taking, like if you're using React Toastify, you take React Toastify, their API, you take the operating system specific API, which would be options. Here we go. Like body, title, schedule, large body, summary. And you basically like define a specific or a single API, and that API then will, based on the context that you've given it, app focus, thing in the background, activity, what have you, you fire off DOM or you fire off operating system native notification. And your input then is just going into either of those APIs. So there's going to be you basically end up having like a union where, I guess, like you could do something like, so send notifications takes options. And where's options? Can we interface options? What are our exports? Export type options. Type options as notification options. There we go. So now at the API level, you end up getting something like, sure, we'll just take it out for right now. Something like this, where this can be a union. So then this would be like React Toastify. If you're using TypeScript, this might actually end up being sufficient. So then when you're passing in options, you're only going to be able to pass in options that that have that overlap. The problem is there's going to be things like the schedule where they don't overlap whatsoever. They're completely different. And if you want to keep this more dynamic, you wouldn't be able to use this type of API because you basically wouldn't be able to pass in a schedule that would, or a schedule that would meet both notification options and React Toastify expectations. So I think you're either going to end up going like this is at a high level, something for more like simple implementations or not, like just show a toast. I don't care too much about the settings. If you want to dig into it more, I think you're going to have to start pulling out a third type, which then branches into one of these two. So rather than doing this as like a union, you'd have like an abstraction over this basically. But for right now, we're just gonna do something like this. So then that'll make it a little bit easier for somebody they know the types, they know what to send in. This would make this a little bit clearer. So when you're not gonna help me out, are you? Notify is an any. Okay, so we might have to do a little typing there to make this API nicer. And I think a little bit of that like TypeScript here. So TypeScript, it's a thing. Appreciate it for what it does. If you're a library maintainer, having gnarly types can end up being painful. But if you're really supporting TypeScript in a large way, gnarly types might be the only way you can make the API for the user side of things nice. When you're a consumer of TypeScript, if nobody downstream of you is using this, any's are not great in theory because they blitz all the types. So there's like internal too. If I'm writing this, if I'm writing this function here, this set of notifications, if that doesn't have good types, internally within my app, other people are using this. It would be nice to have good types there. But also, like, is it really worth spending 7 days getting one type working? You know, in this case, though, like this API is small enough, I think we would end up, this is going to return a very specific thing. We are setting a very specific thing. We could then decorate our use state with that specific thing. So we, when we use it downstream here, this helps us out. Because if this isn't any, that's not going to help us out. So I think for this use case, we'll probably wire that up. Assuming, yeah, we've only been going an hour. We can probably do that. Let's get this working though. I haven't actually run anything yet. Let's see how this works. npm run Tory dev. This used to be bigger. I feel like everything's getting smaller, or my eyes are getting worse. We got a little bit more to compile because we have the notifications plugin now. This should on mount check if permission is granted and ask for it if need be. And then it's exporting functions. So like right when the app loads, I would expect us to see a pop-up for it. Once we accept, then I think clicking this button will do something. Prior to that, I don't think anything's going to happen. Next week, you will tell how you ended up doing it. Nice. I'm glad this is helpful. Okay, we have the app. I don't see any like notifications or anything. Cannot read properties of null reading title. Got it. We didn't we want to set a default. Title, because I didn't actually specify anything there before. Tauri and body. We'll probably end up taking this out, but for now, this is a default notification. There. Hotkey we already registered. I thought we dealt with that. Global shortcuts, bad request. Oh, okay. So if I click this, notify is not a function. So we have const notify. We are returning that as part of our set of notifications. We have async because we need to request. In here, we are doing use effect, and we're doing set up notifications. We are awaiting this, and then setting. And that use state is there. So this should fire off on mount. It's possible that we might need to like play around with this a little bit because of this how this permission granted is firing. It is saying that notify is not. It could be a rendering thing too. If this hotkey thing is erroring out, let's just take that out for the moment. This erroring hotkey issue might be something that we need to deal with. All right, let us refresh. Cannot read properties of null. Reading title. Okay. So on click, we're calling notify. Notify should be coming from the use context. Use context is there. The notifications will end up being a function. I think I'm actually going to set the default to this for the moment. Notifications have not been initialized. Just to give us key in a little bit to what's happening here. Yeah, notifications have not been initialized. So at send notification, this isn't actually async. At least not at the moment. We would have to make it async for like the window is focused. Yeah, okay, I'll leave it. Let's kill this to get a clean thing. So the global, I'm not sure why the global shortcuts is throwing an error because it was working before. And I might actually just want to hide take off this focus thing for the moment. Okay, they have not been initialized. We're still listening to clicks. Notify. Notify is not a function. Did we hook all of this up correctly is the question. Notify should be coming from the system tray context. Tray and notify. We're not blitzing it at all, are we? I don't see it. You're running a lot of config issues with Tauri and just switch to Electron. Interesting to see how others deal with issues. Yeah, I mean, teach their own. Were you on V2 or were you on V1? I've noticed that V2, especially now that we've expanded the JavaScript APIs, you have to pay attention a lot more to the permissions. And that is seeming to trip people up. Were you on V1? Okay. Were you doing more Rust side of things or were you doing more JavaScript side of things? I'm presuming more JavaScript because of Electron. I would say like the pure JavaScript. Yeah. Like V2, if you're doing pure JavaScript, I feel like V2 is a lot better just because the APIs are much more extensive in JavaScript. And yeah, exactly. You needed to access the file system. Yeah. V1, you would have to keep dipping into Rust. In V2, a lot of those APIs have already been like pre-written for you. Like there was the plugin already existing, but it was only you'd have to implement it strictly through Rust. So those APIs in V2 are a lot nicer. Not saying you need to necessarily switch or anything, but that's been my experience. There's always, Electron just released version 30. They've had a lot more time to like experiment and see how see how these APIs feel, because it's one thing like writing the code and making the thing work. Designing APIs to be used by somebody and make them intuitive is like a whole different skill set. And even if you are like a prodigy at that type of thing, iteration and getting feedback is going to be helpful. Like it's the same thing if you're doing like a SaaS or something like that. The value of shipping a thing quickly to get feedback is very high, because what you see brings along your own biases. And when you're developing something, that's why developers like to do dev tools, because they can kind of fill both roles. I like to make a dev tool because the audience is me. I can write the thing for me. If you're not the audience, you need to be able to put yourself in their shoes, at least to start out. But those shoes aren't going to fit. So having somebody that is going to be using the app and has these other experiences from you, giving you feedback, is highly valuable. Long story short, Electron.js is on version 30. They've had that time. I'm sure Tory will get there, but it's going to take some iteration. And I'm never gonna give anybody any shade or anything for using Electron. I'm ship the thing. If you want to test and you're playing around and you're learning, cool. Play with Tory, play with Electron, do whatever is going to make sense for you. But my experience is that once I've started using V2, I'm everything that we've been doing on stream since V2, really like came out into beta. I guess everything has been V2 that we've been doing on stream. That additional iteration I'm liking it. I'm also like okay with and familiar with how things are implemented and how they've changed. So this permission system doesn't feel as difficult to me, and honestly, like I kind of like it. And debugging it hasn't been an issue for me, but I've talked to a bunch of people now that I've actually run into issues, and they like that the way to debug it just hasn't really like reached the zeitgeist yet, or the Tory docs. Exactly, yeah, like the Tory docs. They need there's some lift to happen in those Tory docs, and I think that's probably something that if I can ever get some bandwidth to throw some effort into the Tory docs, being able to communicate the way to debug some of these things I think is going to be immensely valuable. You did learn a lot about npm and configuring in order to get the code to actually work. Yeah, like configuration has changed, and like there's the differences. The like Electron is implementing the browser APIs and kind of like polyfilling them to where the front end and the back end sort of blend. It makes it, if you're really familiar with the web, like that kind of feels natural, and I can understand why people would like that. On the opposite side of things, though, like in some ways, I appreciate it having the front end and the back end be a little bit more distinct, because it's like something that with the React server components, something that kind of worries me about that is the you get into these weird like, oh well, this thing's supposed to run on the server and I wrote it with front end code, or vice versa, and then like I feel like that kind of stuff is hard to debug. So having very specific containers for back end code versus front end code, in my mind, feels more natural and feels less error prone. But it's gonna be different for everybody. And yeah, like you said, those Tory docs, I think we've done a lot of like figuring out with and playing around with on stream these APIs. Sometimes the Tory docs have been great and helpful. Sometimes we've just like played around with it and we've worked through it. And other times, other people on the team have hopped on the stream and hey, this is how you're supposed to do it. So I think there's definitely some iteration that needs to happen on the docs. I think everybody's aware of that. And again, if you're watching and you're in the Tory community, that's a great way to help out. It's if you're writing the code, it's good to write docs. But the way you write the docs after you've written the code is going to end up being very different than somebody getting into and using it for the first time. Like if I haven't written the code and I'm going to attempt to use this API, the knowledge that I need to know to get to the point where I can ship the thing, that path is going to be very different than the person that wrote the code. So like having that insight and bringing that to the docs is immensely helpful. So if anybody's watching and you're in the Tory community and you want to help out, we would always love to see help with the Tory docs, because just expanding on and like hitting all of those viewpoints is very important. And just in general, like writing docs it's a whole separate skill set. Okay. So what do we got happening here? This is a little bit of a different API, and I don't think I've got any issues with I don't think I have any issues necessarily with the permissions, because it already did the permissions for me. We're calling this and we're doing set notifications. I'm setting an initial state here, which should technically work. If we don't, let's do this. This should work. If this is not working, it's something with our React context. That might be a good first step. So we get this. I think I'm gonna have to turn off that focus thing. Okay, notifications have not been initialized. So why is it firing? Why is it firing? That's kind of weird. And I don't have strict mode on, right? That was something that got us before too. If you're unfamiliar with React, they added a thing called strict mode. No, it's off. That the expectation is that your hooks. So when you're doing a, where's a hook? Do I have a hook anywhere? I mean, you use context as technically a hook. In theory, this is something that you should be able to run multiple times. Like it should be pure, as they say. So when you have strict mode on, it actually runs twice. And we were getting a situation where we were having this thing run twice, which I can see the intent, but also we're using it for a side effect right now because that's how we have it set up at the moment. So that's why I've turned strict mode off for the moment. Let's turn off some things. We're going to make this visible so we can see what we're working with. This should give us the ability to iterate a little bit quicker here. I can't move it around because I don't have drag regions, but so notifications have not been initialized. Now I can't get to the code there. Here, we'll do it this way. There we go. So this is firing right away. This is a function. Oh, I need to do, here. We'll just do it like this. I don't want it to fire right away. I want it to be a function. So we'll do a refresh. Let's pull up this menu again. So, I mean, it's still saying why is that firing? What am I missing? Use state. That might be a weird use state thing. Refresh. Okay. So now, if we notify is not a function. Okay. So notify is there and there. And then what we're doing here is we're calling notify. So if we go here, we'll do a console.log notify. Oop. Ugh. I was doing the Mac version of undo. Stop highlighting. Come on, stop highlighting. No. Click. Notify is null. Okay. So if we turn on this now, well, this should be firing off, and we should be getting a setup notifications. And I would expect to be seeing this. So let's just make sure like this stuff is actually firing. Permission granted. Notifications. Entering setup. Log the things. Go from there. Okay. Notifications entering setup. Permission has already been granted. Interesting. So then that should mean that we have this notification function. So console.log notify should give us the function. All right. So then here we should have initial notification access. What do we call this? Notification? Sure. Send notification. So now, we don't have a way to like, that's what's happening. We're not getting a re-render. Notify. This is only going to render once. That's the issue. So if we clear this and give this a refresh, we're getting a notify function. And then on line 23, we're getting a promise rejected. Why are we getting a promise rejected? I think too the app on line 20. Okay, permission granted. Line 24. Oh. Why is it trying to... It's like it's trying to execute that function. Cannot read properties of null, reading title. I mean, I don't want it to actually execute the... Yeah, okay, that, I mean, if refresh, true. So this is firing off notify. Cannot read properties of null, reading title. So we're not sending options. We should be sending here. Title. Well, let's just hard code it for the moment. Boop. Clear, refresh. So when somebody fires this off, they will be, I want to run send notification. It's like it's immediately executing, which is odd. And if I click that, I'm still getting notify is not a function. So there's, let us, okay, cancel, stop you. Okay, one thing at a time. We're going to take this bit here. I'm going to take it out here. I'm going to put it right here. I want to be able to call it directly. So this notify should be this state, which is coming from here. So we have here a send notification. I guess it's like it's trying to execute it. So I must be missing something somewhere that it's just firing it off. Yeah, hoisting issue. Yeah. It's something like that. I'm missing something. Or a cache issue. Promise fulfilled, undefined. Nope, I'm this way. It's there. Okay. Oh. Turn off all notifications for window PowerShell. Interesting. Okay. Here, let's do. Can I turn them on? Notifications. Because I kind of want to leave do not disturb on still. But I want to additional settings. How can I make that app come through in priority mode? Set priority notifications. Can I do it here? I just need to turn this off. Turn all notifications off. I don't want to turn it off. All right. Well, we'll see how this goes. Clear all. All right. So if I click this, I'm getting this notify is not a function. If I refresh, okay. If I refresh, it's firing it right away. Interesting. What is this? Send notification. So you can either give it a string of text or you can give it options here. Makes sense. It is a function. Let's look at the actual JavaScript. Send notification. So it's a function that takes options. All right. And it seems like it does hook into some of those same APIs. So like you might be able to use some of those same APIs for like DOM versus native. Return send notification. It's like firing this directly on load. Is this an anonymous function thing? Do you have any uninitialized variables? I mean, notify should be a null. I can probably start typing some of these too. That'll help. But so send notification should end up returning. It's a promise or void. Does that track? When I do setup notifications, I'm calling this and I'm returning that. I suspect I won't end up doing some of this more anyways. That makes naming this easier. And now I can do notify function maybe. Then we'll do this and this. And rerun this. I don't think this was. I don't think it being an anonymous function was the issue, but it's still running on startup. What the heck? So it's running with boop. So it's immediately running this. That is weird. Right here. Actually, I mean, it's in an object now. We could do it's this. Because I suspect we'll want that closure. Let's cancel and rerun. I'm getting all the boops. Clear all. Okay. So my expectation is that when we click the button, okay, here we're calling it with nothing. We're still getting in. We're not in strict mode. Oh, it's not there yet. I'm looking for the system tray thing. So it's entering the setup, doing notifications true. And then this would be app line 20. So we have the function there. And then we're setting it. We should be able to call it here. Why are we getting a notify is not a function? I don't think I have anything like on initial. I mean, technically this is on first render. I mean, I guess that could potentially still be a null. So this would change. I mean, on first render, we're doing this. We're doing this work, so we should be able to like. I mean, it's this. It's got to be this use effect stuff. Okay. Are we using anything? I mean, if we start getting into this, we kind of still need to handle it in potentially like in React context, or in the context of React, not literally React context. I think we've potentially hit the limits of using this use effect just to like fire things off initially. But I don't know what would be a better. I guess on first render, we're really just probably don't need the use effect. Let's just take it out for the moment. Notify, let's take out the state. We're gonna do it on first render. So tray, I'm gonna take out the tray for the moment as well. We'll say const tray. That's why I needed that async. So tray is undefined for the moment. Setup notifications. Currently we are calling it. We don't actually need async, but technically we do. How can we handle that async without using a use effect? That's why I had originally thrown it in there, because it was quick for what we were doing. But where's the use effect docs? Components, hooks, use callback. We don't really want to use callback because that would then require us to interact. So like handle submit makes sense because you're running off of, okay, this needs to go away. Did 3D work? Might need to actually like type some text to Elasha. Also, hey, how's it going? Use deferred value. This feels more in line of what I'm thinking. So use deferred value, and then it fills in things. And we could do the same with use memo, use reducer. That might be the way to go. I've never actually tried this use debug value. Add a label to custom hook. Oh. I've never actually used this use deferred value either. That might be the thing that we want to try though. I'm hesitant to pull in something like React use. Oh. tends to be a library that is easy to pull in because it has a lot of these hooks pre-built. Like when I'm working with clients, using an existing hook kind of naturally comes with built-in documentation. So it's easier to use off-the-shelf stuff. We might try this though. Use deferred value and initial value. Call use deferred value at the top level component to get a deferred version value. It can have any type. So re-render with the old value, and then try another re-render in the background with the new value. During updates, the deferred value will lag behind the latest value. I mean, this feels like it would be useful. Like they've got it in here for a query. This feels like it's useful for that use case. The difference between use deferred value and unoptimized or re-rendering. Got it. So rather than like triggering multiple re-renders, you're basically like opting into this thing rendering slightly slower. Yeah. And you can wire it in with suspense, but like it's just a function. So this would be useful if we need to update the value. Like we were doing this. We were doing this pattern because we wanted a way to set like the tray items and then pass that down to the user that they can modify them. I think that still makes sense. Well, what does this say? What's nice about the use effect is I can run these async things. I don't like it in there's just a lot of pitfalls with it. Connecting to an external system, like in a bunch of these, and like, I mean, I guess. Okay, I don't see. I think we need this async in here. I'm not still not keen on doing this use effect, but we'll deal with it. And then I think effectively we end up wanting like notify in here, which would then cause the re-render. And I think this would give us the updated version in here. And I believe that's why it's saying it's not a function. So to jump to your mention before, stale value basically. It's like the React version of a stale value. Because I was expecting to only fire this off when it first rendered, which mostly worked. It is still firing this function though, which is weird. And it is because notify is a like an actual function. This isn't a stable value. Oh my gosh. So the notification function is only going to change on this type of stuff. So the functions aren't stable. So here, when we fire off the setup notifications, okay, let's back up a little bit. Use effect, we want it to fire in certain situations. Originally, we had said when the app first loads, fire it off, which worked for this because this tray is sort of like a mutation, more of a mutation type thing, where we're taking a menu and appending to it. So like that's fine because we're setting it up once, like set it up and return the thing. Notifications is a little bit more. I guess we could split out in a separate use effect. why is it booping? Just fire off that many. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Clear. Go away. So we're going to do that. This also needs to be async. Use effect async. And this is the like. In some ways, I like React, and in other ways, it can be painful to work with. Yeah, I've been notified. No joke. Good old infinite loop. So I guess I kind of need to do a const permission notification permission set notification permission. Now, I don't really care about that, but I just need a signal to know that this thing is like a run, which is somewhat frustrating, but then in that way we can basically return the permission granted. We're on, so every time we fire this function, we're going to be checking if it's granted or not, and then basically asking and returning. So like this, I guess in some ways this also helps us with the fact that we might need to ask more than once. So then what we end up getting is this will return, when we fire off this function, we're going to get a permission granted as well. We will set the function, and then we will set the notification permission. This will change this value, which changes this, which would cause a re-render. So then this UI should have the latest notify, which should be a function. And there still might be this like weird infinite loop thing going on, but I'm not sure why it's actually firing off every time it loads. Like why? Why is that happening? So now we're getting the second re-render. And it's re-rendering twice. But notification is still not a function. Notify. Oh, yep. Wait, what? Notify is a promise? That's the other bit too. Every time I save, Vite is doing the hot reloading and then it refires this off. So it gets the permission granted. I click this. Notify is a promise. We are setting this function here. Notifies an async function, which returns a function. Yeah. Or excuse me, which returns a promise. Yes. I mean, so like technically now I changed this to log this out. Technically this should be this. But like if I log out notify there, it should say that it's a function, right? So there's two pieces that I am like completely missing what's going wrong. Let's just take this out for the moment because that I think is causing another re-render. The bane of use effects here. Okay. It's firing, changing, and then refiring again. Which makes sense. So I guess in some ways I can also do if because I don't actually need to refire and reset this. Whoop. Wrong hotkey. Okay. That'll fix this re-rendering issue. Fires off once. Why is it booping? Let's look at that. Let's take one piece at a time. We are calling setup notifications. Setup notifications is entering the setup, checking for permissions, and then returning an object. That object has permission granted and notify. There should be nothing actually calling that yet, right? But somehow this is firing. So we get two things back. We set them in state. And so I think there's clearly something I'm missing, but the only thing that should be firing this notify function is a click of a button, right? But like this appears to be firing immediately. Why? Console clear. Refresh. What am I missing? Why is this firing immediately? Export const. It's gonna be like something like really goofy, and I'm gonna do the facepalm meme. Can I blame lack of sleep? Why is this firing? Setup notifications is calling an async function and that's returning an object. And that object has a function and a value. Sure. Async function. Okay, so like that's a function, right? It should be of like a function returning a function basically. Send notification. I mean, it could it be that return? So okay, so it's not the setup notification, it's my code doing something that I'm not expecting it to. The setup notifications is an async function that returns this. Why is that firing right away? We are doing await setup notifications. That's returning these two things. So if I don't set those, if I'm literally just calling await, what do I get? Okay. So when I call set notification, the notify function it's like calling it. Okay, this should be fine, right? So do this, permission granted, click that. Oop, I clicked the wrong one. Notify. Notify is not a function. That looks right. So then this, is this like a use state thing? Notify. Nope. The API is going to end up being notify.notify, but okay. Can I not set a function and use state? I thought you could do that. Set functions. I must have only set it as an object. I knew it was gonna be something goofy that I just like completely overlooked as I was talking through stuff. Okay. I must have only like built up objects and I was conflating the two. So if we're returning this is giving us notify and permission granted. So we're gonna say notifications. We're gonna get rid of this. This needs to potentially refire, so I'm going to leave that. We're going to call this and permission granted. I'm removing this and that and there. Now we should we're going to then rename this to send. And I'm going to do this. The set functions accept functions when setting state. Oh yeah. Ah. I completely forgot about that. So it was firing off the function because I was giving it a function. Oh my goodness. I knew it was gonna be something like I knew something was happening with it. And I knew I was doing something wrong. You just you get into that state and don't think about it. Cannot read properties of null. Yep, okay, that makes sense. Let us do an initial state of what is it? Permission granted. False. Okay. Refresh. Click. Bam. Now we're rolling here. So send should be this. It's a little bit annoying programming with there's a window in front of my face, but so notify should return that and that. We're gonna remove these logs because I'm sure this is certain this is the issue. So now when we click this, there we go. I don't know why I was thinking I could give it a function. It's one of those like, you spell something wrong and you debug it for like 2 hours and you're like, why is this not working? And it just turns out because you can't spell. That's what it feels like right now. It's like, I knew how to spell it. I just didn't do it right. And was completely oblivious to the fact that I had missed this, what can be deemed simple. So now I should be able to do notifications. And here I will do a notifications.send. And we'll just do nothing right there for right now. We'll do a refresh. And when we click this, we should get the boop. All right. So now this is not typed. Let's see if we can type it real quick. We'll bring this back. Actually, yeah, we can bring it back. And permission granted. So then when we're setting this up, this will end up effectively taking some sort of input. So we could, like user settings or something like that is a thing that we could put in here. And we would have to then somehow pull them in and like instantiate them. But like that's going to depend on either like a store or state, or we'll have to do something with that. And this might end up just being renamed to like, I guess system tray context is fine. But that a setting state could be something that we end up implementing here too, and then wiring it into setup notifications, which would then determine if the user has opted into notifications or not. And I suppose actually we could do it at this level. No, we would need to pass it in because we want to no op on the actual send itself. All right, we have the function, we're sending it. I don't need this button anymore, no, because I've moved it. Now we have a notifications here. We want to type this. So let's do a this is going to take type of, nope, not send. Okay, no, let's do a type of, type of setup notifications, and that'll be the return type. Okay, so now this will end up giving us a, it's still an any. So setup notifications, return type will be a, is the hover going to help me out here? Type of, oh, do I need to hover out here? Why is that still an any? So not like that. Boolean. Why is that still an any? Reload. You're so glad you learned an npm install now, and you can install any GitHub project without. Oh, nice. It's a rabbit hole. There is a lot on npm. Some of it is really good. Some of it is fine. Some of it is like malicious. So, like any package manager, there's all sides of the coin. Come on, come say hi. I wasn't just like looking off into space. Kitty is saying hi. So we got the notification. It is sending. We are doing a default. We can set a specific thing here. We're gonna see if we can type it real quick, because we should know the type. And use state. Do they have anything about TypeScript in here? Probably not. I thought you could pass a type like that. Man, use state is it's doing something dirty to me today. Why is this an any? TypeScript. Why? What's your deal here? I could have sworn that you could pass that in. All right. Yeah, I reloaded the window. Right? Like this is valid syntax, right? I mean, we should be able to do a weighted return type, and I could probably abstract this out too. Return type of setup notifications. Weighted only refers to the type, but is being used as a value here. There we go. Like that. I'm pretty sure that should theoretically work. Like if we pulled it down here. So notify is type of. Why don't you like that? Notification API? Sure. And let's take out the awaited. Oh, return type you go. There we go. Now we can say, so notification API would be a promise with permission granted and send. And then this could be the return of the awaited. Still an any. And this await is returning that. That still has the Good. It has the types. But for some reason, TypeScript does not. Let's reload. let's just reload TLS, reload. I mean, it could be, I've got TypeScript in here, but I don't have TypeScript in here. Does that make sense? I am using types, like the TLS or the TS server, not TLS. What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, where's T's config? Yeah. I started converting stuff over. I never actually set up TypeScript. It is strictly relying on TypeScript from, like, is doing all the TypeScript stuff directly in the IDE, and like Vite just is okay with the TypeScript. So let's do Vite TypeScript. I could be convinced either way, TypeScript or not. And I could potentially see a case where we would want to set it up to where TypeScript is like optional, where you could have the framework and set up in TypeScript or not. I can see either way. Let's just look at their. That's not really what I was hoping for, but so their Vite config is React. That's all fine and well. Then there's a TS config, and they have, I'm assuming, TypeScript in. Yeah. I think we do npm add -d TypeScript. Do we need anything else? We might want some of the other bits here too. TypeScript ESLint parser. I think I'm gonna leave those out for the moment though. I don't really need Node. Maybe because it's setting up stuff for Vite. Okay. Let's add that. We'll add these configs. tsconfig.json and tsconfig.node.json. Yeah, I was thinking about. I don't know that we need to like jump right into ESLint right now. But I could see these. Also, we're on React 17. If you do a process.m, it'll ask for node types. I don't know that there's going to be a case where we really need to do that, because we shouldn't generally be relying on those. I want to say if we were doing anything with environment variables, we would run it through the Rust side of things. So I don't think I'm gonna need some of it. I'm gonna punt on this right now. I suspect we might want to just upgrade to Node 18 as well. I don't want to do that right now though. I really don't want to do that right now. But we might need to. Well, not the upgrade. Yep. Okay. So there should be npm as a versions at type/react. Nope. what's the command to get all the versions of a package? npm explorer fund hook init ls. No, that's local. npm explorer at types/react. What's that? Oh. Okay. Fine. We're just doing it this way. Types/react. Was it types? It was types, right? Types react. So I want to grab the latest 17. npm add types/react at this, and we want both React and React DOM, not that React DOM, this React DOM. There we go. Versions and 17 at types/react DOM at this. So now we should, let's give this a reload. You can also like restart there's like a restart TS server. I end up just doing the reload. I don't really have a good reason for it, but restart TS server. You had to step away for the suggestion earlier. Did you end up figuring it out? Yeah. So it was all the fact that for some reason I had in my head that I could set a function directly as a state value. Whoops. So we switched it to an object. So it's notifications is an object now, and it's returning permission granted and send. One of those things, for some reason I had it in my head, and now that I know what I did wrong, I know that I did that wrong. Okay. Interesting. What? You were expecting a type matching void to structure, but instead he passed promise void. Does argument at 5 promise void is not assignable to type effect callback. So what is it? Is that not supported anymore? The expected type comes from value, which is declared here. So tray null, notifications, this is not assignable to type null. Why is it expecting null? That is a question. Why are you expecting that? So we are going to I think we're just going to define a function here. We're going to say send, and notifications not initialized. I'll be fine with that for right now. Comma. The joys of TypeScript. Right. Type menu provides no match for the signature. This kind of comes back to the other thing too. Just created an async function inside of useEffect. Isn't that what I did? Oh, I see what you're saying. So like Go. Go. Oh, that I trolled myself here. How many O's? 4. Nope. What are you doing? That is that. That is this. So this needs to be a function now. So then that and that, this. There we go. Like that. Oh, there we go. Really? Oh, that feels. Fine. Okay, so you have to literally just void it. I'm even less enthralled with use effect. Async function. I don't actually need to like make it a function, but go less. I'm gonna rename this, but I'm at that point where I just wanted to go. This is the correct syntax. All right, so set state action null. Okay, so because we haven't typed this, so this is going to be either a null or a tray, which is going to be a menu from this. And tray. How do we type the context? Provider. I don't remember how to type context. Provider, I was expecting to type matching null, but instead he passed this. Okay. Husam, it's possible that your message, if you're pasting code, your message might be getting caught by the YouTube automod stuff, which I don't have control over, and I never see anything related to that. Just FYI. So if you're typing something and I'm not responding, sorry, but I can't. That's not my fault. Yeah, no mod view for getting automodded. So like I mean, we ran into that with Chris. Chris was like, you were dropping a link or something, weren't you? Okay, cool. This just I'm not a fan of use effect, and everything else is just so much more work. Okay, create context. I don't need that here. Can I type the context though? Do I have to do that in I have to do that here, right? So create context is null. It's either going to be a null. I mean, on initialization, it could be null, I guess. Or it's going to be this, which is, boy. All right. I might need to abstract out some of these types to make them easier to type. We're going to grab this. We're going to put it here. Export. Yeah, I don't know if I like it's saying API in there, but notification API. I think notification is going to have a lot of like name clashes. So All right. Why is that? Menu type menu or null is not assignable to type menu. So we're passing menu null, and it can be null or menu. And that's fine because so here I'm initializing the value as null. So it's going to be null or menu. Here I'm initializing it as not. Can I find, oh, yep, we need to import. Okay. We've typed the things. So now the property tray does not exist on type tray menu. Because that whole thing could be null. Abstract out of the type system any. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like most of the time when I write TypeScript, I just any everything. I kind of do this with Rust too a little bit. Less so because it's a little bit more strict. But like when I'm just throwing code out there and trying to like feel out the API, like what I want it to look like, any. And then just once I feel good about it, I can start to come back to and clean up TypeScript. And then in the same way, so like Rust, just clone everything. Clone everything, come back to it, deal with it. Yeah. And in Rust, things slot together in a way TS doesn't. So like I think clone is probably the biggest one. Because like clone and the error handling. It's good to do the error handling and deal with the ownership, but when I'm prototyping stuff out, that's the stuff that I don't really care about at the time. So I end up just cloning everything and dealing with the like ownership and stuff later. That seems to mostly work, but far from my Rust being expert level by any means. Yeah, clone first, ask questions later. I like that. Okay, why are we complaining here? Let's see what this looks like. We saw some people generating the TypeScript types using Rust itself. There's a I still have the. Let's take that off for the moment. I don't want to. That focus stuff is going to get annoying to debug through. Hi, Kitty. Yes. BindGen. There was a. I think it was Jonas was playing around with that. I did it? I don't recall if it's BindGen. I don't remember, to be honest. I think we've switched over to using this. But if you're particularly interested in diving down that rabbit hole of Rust and TypeScript, check this out. Basically, I believe this is used in some way or was originally. Yeah. Don't quote me on this. I don't remember. I don't recall. I know this was something that was investigated. But we have like all of our files are called like guest JavaScript and guest TypeScript and such. So, do you need something, Kitty? And come up and say hi. I can give you pets when you come up. She's pawing at me to get attention. Anyways, okay, so let's check to see if this is working, and fingers crossed we can send it. Bam. So now, anytime I click this, we're gonna get a notification. Well, we've got a lot right now, but so this comes back to like Chao was saying, there's the schedule and like the queue system. The OS, at least in Windows here, is I'm clicking it a whole bunch. It's only showing up once, but it shows here as 13. Like 13 is probably how many times I clicked. So we don't need to deal with any of that. And if you're using something like that React Toastify, that's going to be handling a lot of that for you too. Some or both, well, at least on the DOM implementation side of things, you may choose to implement it yourself. Obviously, you could choose a different library. But at this level of abstraction, all we need to do is have a way to determine where to send the notification. And each system is then going to end up handling their like own implementation stuff. And with TypeScript, we can use, assuming you can actually write your TypeScript, without you can use TypeScript as a way to you can use TypeScript as a way to help inform or otherwise build up a like abstract thing that somebody that's writing the code could use. I just want to do notification.send. This function here, that's going to do all the things that we care about in determining if we can send it based on it being focused or not, determine where we can send it. So then at this level of abstraction, we're not caring about queues or timing or anything like that. That is all, we branch into one or multiple places where we can send the notifications, and each of those have built up their own consideration there. So this abstraction is just the split code path. Where are we sending this notification? And like this could even potentially be a thing where you send it to native OS, you send it to DOM. You could also set it up to send to different device. So like this could go to WebSocket at some point even. So depending on your use cases, this is more of just a router. At the end of the day, we're making sure we can do this and then routing it to the correct place. And then once the thing that receives it, we've determined the right place to send it. Once that place receives it, it's going to determine how and when and for how long to show it. So I think it was a little bit more struggling with, less TypeScript, but more React than I was expecting. But now we got notifications. It is interesting. It says Windows PowerShell. We are running it through. Let's try this real quick. We'll do a quick release build. I don't remember what. npm run Tory build. Let's run the release build real quick. I guess we'll do it for now. I do actually want to leave it like that because when somebody builds it, I want them to change it. So if you're grabbing this template, I want the person grabbing the template to be the one that changes this value. We might want to like note it somewhere. And actually, I am gonna move it up though. Tory. We'll build it. I want to test to make sure that it is going to, yeah. This is what I have. Oh my gosh, did I hit scan? What did I hit dismiss or scan? Now my computer's struggling. Crap. What do you need? Come on up. Ugh. Come say hi. Want to say hi? No? Camera shy today. Hopefully I didn't accidentally start some scan. I think I hit dismiss. I don't know. Basically, I want to try this and run it with the build because I want to see how the notification shows up. I don't think it's going to show up under the Windows PowerShell. I think that's a dev only thing, but we'll see. We'll see. Ah. Bundler setting. App. I don't really care about this right now. Oh, hi. Yes. Come on. Because I have the updater in there. Incremental rebuild though, so that helps. One last thing to build. Hopefully that's it. There we go. All right. So then we end up going target, release, and we want to run tray app. So reveal in File Explorer and release and tray app. So when this starts, we get this. It's gonna interesting. We don't get the icon there. When I click notify, it's still showing up under Windows PowerShell. Interesting. Okay. That's going to be something I want to look into. I don't know that that's correct. That could be a me thing, but this feels weird. It could be, and this might be something we need to note in the docs. When we were originally looking at, okay, you need to go away. Oh, it's going to be in there. Okay, I'll kill it later. It's fine. We'll look at this real quick, and then I think this is what we're going to call it. It's the setup notification. In the send notification, we want to do options. And one of the options, there's a channel ID. Identifier of the channel that delivers. If the channel does not exist, the notification won't fire. So vibration, importance, this is all, that feels like a mobile. I don't know if channels are needed for desktop, but I wonder if that's something that's like dictating it. Action type to find the action. I'm guessing it's in one of these, but I don't know offhand. I think we'll look into it off stream. I'll see if I can figure out the answer. I suspect that's it though. Because obviously it would be awkward to have that show up under Windows PowerShell on Windows. So we'll need to deal with that. Let's fix this comment real quick, and then I think we are going to call it a day. So we've got permission granted, and here let's pull this down into this function. We could consider settings from the user dictated Oh, we could consider settings from the user that dictates where and if to send a notification. We could also use a framework library or custom code to render this notification in the DOM and use a signal such as the await window dot is focused to determine where to send. Okay. I think that's probably going to be good. This is an async function right now. We're not looking at, I haven't actually pulled in the window focus. I think I'm going to grab that real quick. And we'll do get current. Is it from WebView? Window. Window, get current, and then we do focused, await window that is focused. Okay. There we go. I think that's probably going to be good. So like this might be enough of guidance for somebody to come in and be like, well, I want to potentially send it to the DOM, or I want to, I mean, you kind of have to like check for permission, or like wire up settings. So I hopefully this is going to be enough guidance here, and we have it async already. So like you could uncomment this, move this import to the top, and like start using that potentially. And we'll have to clean up a little bit of the TypeScript, I think, before I actually push this up. But it should cover the bulk of the use cases, I think, with notifications, or at least the like native level stuff, to where then you could pull in whatever framework thing that you care about if you want notifications in the DOM. For the tray apps, maybe not, but you know. Yeah, this was great. There was a lot of great questions. I always appreciate y'all stopping by, asking these good questions. It's fun to like dig into those and like the reasoning and why you'd use one thing versus the other. So appreciate it. Again, we've been going into these tray apps as like a concept. There isn't really much docs as far as like this concept in general in the Tory docs. That's something that I do want to work on getting pushed upstream. I haven't yet. But if anybody's interested in PRs or pushing this template forward, happy to entertain that. We can always open up issues or discussions in the repo and follow up there to determine what we want to do. And then snippets, probably going to be the next thing that we start to explore. I think we at least have a couple more streams of things we can like play around with that are within this greater concept of someone quickly spinning up a tray app. And I hope with that we will be generating examples and working through the docs and seeing where we're missing pieces in the docs. And we can also work to like get that knowledge that we gain pushed up into the docs for everybody else's benefit. So again, thanks for stopping by, everybody. We should be good for next Tuesday. I feel like I've got something coming up that I'm forgetting about, but look at the schedule. I try to schedule them at least a little bit ahead of time. So, do those YouTube functions to know about the stream next week. But otherwise, I'll have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next week. Bye.